The SNP leader has claimed questions about his decision to award £250,000 to the aid agency as an example of Islamophobia. The SNP as a collective doesn't deal with criticism very well. MPs and MSPs regularly seem stunned that journalists or critics have the temerity to question their decisions or actions. This feeling that Scots should shut up and do as they are told by their intellectual superiors is behind so many of the scandals that have engulfed the party recently. Nicola Sturgeon's refusal to accept differing views on gender. Michael Matheson's obstinate refusal to accept responsibility for his iPad bill. The WhatsApp deletion. All of these have been amplified by SNP arrogance and a refusal to accept facts. And no one exemplifies this more than Humza Yousaf. Politicians are supposed to be thick-skinned. But Yousaf turns that on its head. There could rarely have been a more thin-skinned politician in British history. Someone who refuses to accept they have ever done wrong, or to even acknowledge why people might raise concerns. H has been like this since he entered Holyrood. Jumping in the deep end then acting indignant when H is found out. And that is what has happened with the story relating to his decision to award £250,000 of taxpayer money to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. And his dog-whistling response has been sadly predictable. The only explanation he can come up with is that the story is an example of Islamophobia. It's a nonsense retort that only moves to highlight what an unimpressive figure he is, and ironically gives a story that might have faded away far more prominent. It's hard not to feel sympathy for Mr. Yousaf's situation in relation to Gaza. His family ties to the area means this is an issue that will affect him greatly. I've always understood his personal crusade on the issue, especially when his in-laws were trapped in the exclave, and spending £250,000 to get aid into the region is a better way to spend our money than the awful independence prospectuses. But when he seemingly decides to ignore official advice and go rogue in dealing with public cash, then what does he expect? It's true that as First Minister he can make these decisions, but that doesn't make it right. And nor does it mean these decisions should not be open to scrutiny. And it is an opposition's job to ask these. The SNP has opted to shoot the messenger rather take on the message. Keith Brown's horrifically bad BBC Scotland interview on Monday again highlighted a party that thinks it should be above the law. In the space of a few minutes, he slammed Tory MSP Stephen Kerr for commenting on the story before admitting it was worthy of being raised at Holyrood. The controlled environment of the Scottish Parliament, overseen by a blatantly partisan presiding officer, is just the kind of sterile atmosphere the SNP would thrive in, keeping a potential scandal in the Holyrood bubble.